The text came through at 37,000 feet, somewhere over Kansas, while I was sipping lukewarm coffee and thinking about Kelly's smile when I'd kissed her goodbye 3 days ago. My phone buzzed against the cockpit console, and I figured it was her telling me she missed me. Instead, it was my neighbor Adam, and the message made my stomach drop faster than emergency descent. "Tall guy just came to see your wife." She greeted him in lingerie. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I stared at the screen for a full minute, watching the autopilot hold our course while my world tilted sideways. Jason Miller, 41 years old, 15 years of commercial flying, 12 years married to Kelly, and apparently dumb as a box of rocks when it came to reading the signs. My co-pilot, Stevens, was dozing in his seat, completely unaware that my life was imploding at cruising altitude. I typed back to Adam with shaking fingers. "You sure?" The response came immediately, along with a photo that made me want to punch a hole through the instrument panel. There was Kelly, my Kelly, standing in our doorway wearing the black negligee I'd bought her for our anniversary. And there was some muscle-bound asshole I'd never seen before, his hands already on her waist like he owned the place. "Want me to keep watching?" Adam's next text read. I looked out at the endless sky, thinking about the life I'd built with Kelly. The house we'd bought together in suburban Dallas, the dog we'd rescued from the shelter, the plans we'd made for kids someday, all of it crumbling while I was trapped in a metal tube 6 miles above the earth. "Yeah," I typed back. "Watch everything. Document everything." The next 4 hours to Boston, Logan felt like 40. Every few minutes, my phone would buzz with updates from Adam. Troy Banks, that was the guy's name apparently, drove a bright red Jeep Wrangler with custom rims and a sound system you could hear from space. He worked at Kelly's gym as a personal trainer. He was 28 years old, which made him 13 years younger than me and 8 years younger than Kelly. And according to Adam's increasingly detailed surveillance reports, he was making himself very comfortable in my house. "He's using your truck now," came one message, along with a photo of my Ford F-150 parked at the grocery store. She gave him the keys. That one hit different. Kelly knew how I felt about that truck. I'd restored it myself, spent weekends in the garage getting every detail perfect. The idea of some young punk driving it around town while I was working to pay the mortgage made my vision go red. By the time we touched down in Boston, I had a phone full of evidence and a head full of rage. But underneath the anger was something colder, more calculating. Kelly thought she was being clever, timing her affair for when I was out of town. She thought she had me figured out. The boring, predictable pilot husband who'd never suspect a thing. She was about to learn how wrong she was. I checked into the hotel and immediately called Adam. "Tell me everything," I said. "Jason, man, I'm sorry. I know this sucks, but I figured you needed to know." Adam Richardson had lived next door for 5 years. He was a software engineer, divorced, and had become one of my closest friends. He had a clear view of my driveway from his home office window, and apparently he'd been seeing things that made him uncomfortable for weeks. "How long?" I asked. "I started noticing the Jeep about 3 weeks ago. Always when you were on trips. Today was the first time I saw her answer the door like that, so I figured it was time to tell you." 3 weeks. I'd been on 4 trips in the last 3 weeks, each one lasting 2 to 4 days, which meant Kelly had been planning this, coordinating with Troy, making sure they had the house to themselves every time I was working. "What's your plan?" Adam asked. I stared out the hotel window at the Boston skyline, feeling something cold and sharp settling in my chest where my heart used to be. "I'm going to teach them both a lesson they'll never forget." The next morning, I called in sick for my return flight and booked a commercial ticket back to Dallas. I needed to see this for myself, needed to understand exactly what I was dealing with before I made my move. Adam picked me up at DFW Airport, and we drove straight to a coffee shop with a clear view of the gym where Kelly worked. Elite Fitness was one of those upscale places that charged $200 a month for the privilege of working out next to soccer moms and real estate agents. Kelly had been teaching yoga and Pilates there for 3 years. "There," Adam said, pointing across the parking lot. "Red Jeep. That's him." Troy Banks looked exactly like what Central Casting would order for generic gym douche. 6'2", probably 220 pounds of muscle, tribal tattoo visible on his left shoulder, backwards baseball cap, and the kind of cocky swagger that made me want to introduce his face to my fist. He was walking out of the gym with Kelly, and they weren't being subtle about it. His hand was on the small of her back, and she was laughing at something he'd said, looking up at him with an expression I hadn't seen her give me in years. "They're not even trying to hide it," I said. "Gets worse," Adam replied. "Watch." Kelly glanced around the parking lot. then stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. Not a quick peck either. A full-on, hands in his hair, I want you right now kiss that lasted long enough to make me feel sick. I've got video of that too, Adam said quietly. Started recording everything yesterday. I watched my wife of 12 years climb into my truck with another man, and something inside me snapped clean in half. Not broke, snapped. Clean and sharp and final. What do you know about this Troy guy? I asked. Adam pulled out his phone and showed me a social media profile. Troy Banks, 28, personal trainer, thinks he's God's gift to women. Lives in a crappy apartment complex on the south side. Drives the Jeep, but it's financed up to his eyeballs. Posts workout videos and shirtless selfies about 50 times a day. I scrolled through Troy's photos, noting the expensive clothes, the fancy watch, the constant stream of gym selfies and protein shake endorsements. Either personal training paid a lot better than I thought, or Troy had some side hustles going. There's something else, Adam said. I did some digging. He's been fired from 2 other gyms in the past year. Harassment complaints both times. Complaints? Inappropriate conduct with female clients. Nothing that stuck legally, but enough to get him canned. Elite Fitness either doesn't know or doesn't care. Perfect. A predator with a pattern, and my wife was just his latest conquest. I felt the cold anger in my chest spread outward, numbing everything else. We spent the rest of the day gathering intelligence. I had Adam drop me off at the house while Kelly was at work, and I spent 2 hours going through our home security system. We'd installed it the previous year after a string of break-ins in the neighborhood, and Kelly had insisted on cameras both inside and outside the house. What I found in the archived footage made me want to burn the place down. They'd been using our bed, our kitchen, our living room. Troy had even used my home office, sitting in my chair while Kelly perched on my desk, wearing nothing but one of my old flight school t-shirts. The timestamp showed they'd been at it for almost a month, not just the 3 weeks Adam had noticed. But the worst part wasn't the closeness. It was how comfortable they were. Kelly was making him breakfast in my kitchen. They were watching movies on my couch. In one particularly nauseating clip, she was showing him photo albums from our wedding, and they were both laughing. I copied everything to an external drive and started planning. The old Jason would have confronted Kelly directly, demanded an explanation, maybe suggested marriage counseling. The old Jason still believed in fixing things, in working through problems like adults. The old Jason faded somewhere over Kansas yesterday. The new Jason was going to make sure Kelly and Troy regretted every single moment they'd spent in my house, in my bed, in my life. And I was going to do it in a way that would destroy them both completely, legally, and permanently. I called Randy Morrison, my mechanic buddy who worked on private aircraft at the regional airport. Randy was ex-Navy, built like a linebacker, and had a flexible relationship with both the law and conventional morality. Randy, it's Jason. I need a favor, a big one. What kind of favor? The kind that involves teaching some people a lesson they'll never forget. Randy was quiet for a moment. This about Kelly? Hell yes. What's the plan? I spent the next week playing the perfect, oblivious husband. I came home from my makeup trip to Boston with flowers and Kelly's favorite wine, kissed her hello, and acted like everything was normal. She was jumpy at first, clearly worried I might have figured something out, but I played my role perfectly. How was your week? I asked over dinner. Oh, same old stuff. Work, gym, missed you. She was a terrible liar, always had been. I used to find it endearing. I was thinking we should do something special this weekend, I said. Maybe throw a barbecue, invite the neighbors, some people from work. Kelly's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. A barbecue? We haven't done that in years. I know, but I was thinking it might be fun. We could use the new projector I bought, show some of our vacation photos on the garage wall, make it a real party. I don't know, Jason. I'm pretty busy this weekend. Come on, it'll be great. I'll handle everything. You just invite whoever you want from the gym. I watched her face carefully as I said it. The panic was subtle, but unmistakable. The idea of mixing her work friends with our neighbors clearly terrified her. I'll think about it, she said. While Kelly was at work the next day, I got busy. Adam came over, and we spent the afternoon setting up what I privately called Operation Altitude Sickness. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Maximum humiliation with minimum legal risk. First, I had Randy install a few modifications to Troy's Jeep. Nothing dangerous, nothing that would cause an accident. Just some creative additions that would make his life interesting. Itching powder in the seat cushions, a Bluetooth speaker hidden under the dashboard, synced to my phone, and a small GPS tracker, because I wanted to know exactly where he was at all times. Second, I had Adam help me set up the backyard projector system. Officially, it was for showing vacation photos during the barbecue. Unofficially, it was going to be the centerpiece of Kelly and Troy's public humiliation. Third, I started making some phone calls. Anonymous tips to the right people about Troy's previous harassment complaints and his questionable side businesses. I'd noticed he was always flashing cash despite working at a gym that probably paid him $15 an hour. A little digging revealed he was running private training sessions out of his apartment, taking payment in cash, and not reporting any of it to the IRS. "You're really going nuclear on this," Adam observed as we tested the projector setup. "They went nuclear first," I replied. "I'm just returning fire." Kelly came home that evening and found me in the garage, tinkering with the sound system. "So you're really doing this barbecue thing?" she asked. "Absolutely. I already invited everyone. Saturday afternoon, starting at 2. Should be fun." She was quiet for a long moment. "Jason, maybe we should talk." "About what?" "About us. About things." For just a second, I thought she might actually confess, save us both the public spectacle and just come clean. But then she looked at my face, at the husband she thought she had completely fooled, and decided to keep playing the game. "Never mind," she said. "The barbecue sounds great." Friday morning, I put the final pieces in place. I sent Troy a text from Kelly's phone. I'd cloned it weeks ago using software Adam had provided, inviting him to the barbecue as her special guest. I also sent messages to all of Kelly's gym friends, including her best friend Cassie, who I suspected knew all about the affair. Then I called Detective Abby Flores, an old high school classmate who worked for the local police department. "Abby, it's Jason Miller. I wanted to give you a heads up about something." "Jason, how are you? What's going on?" "I'm having a barbecue tomorrow, and I'm expecting some drama. Nothing violent, nothing illegal, but there might be some raised voices and hurt feelings. Just wanted you to know in case any neighbors call it in." "What kind of drama?" "The kind where people find out their friends aren't who they thought they were." Abby was quiet for a moment. "Jason, whatever you're planning?" "I'm not planning anything illegal, Abby. Just a barbecue where some uncomfortable truths might come to light." "Okay, but if things get out of hand?" "They won't, I promise." Saturday morning, Kelly was a nervous wreck. She changed clothes 3 times, kept checking her phone, and jumped every time the doorbell rang as guests started arriving. "You seem tense," I observed. "I'm fine. Just want everything to go well." "Oh, it will," I said, testing the projector remote one more time. "It's going to be a barbecue nobody forgets." By 2:30, the backyard was full of people. Neighbors, co-workers, Kelly's gym friends, and Randy, who was manning the grill and trying not to grin too obviously. Adam was circulating with a beer, positioning himself near the projector controls like we'd planned. Troy arrived fashionably late, driving my truck and wearing a tank top that showed off his tribal tattoo. He'd clearly been scratching himself. The itching powder was working perfectly. Kelly met him at the gate, and I watched them have a quick, whispered conversation before she led him over to where her gym friends were clustered. "Everyone having a good time?" I called out, climbing onto a chair so I could address the whole crowd. Various cheers and affirmations came back. People were relaxed, drinks were flowing, and the atmosphere was perfect for what came next. "Great, so I thought it might be fun to share some memories. Kelly and I have been together for 12 years, and we've made some amazing memories in this house. I put together a little slideshow of some of our favorite moments." Kelly's face went white. "Jason, maybe we should—" "Oh, come on, honey, don't be shy." I nodded to Adam, who activated the projector. The first few images were exactly what everyone expected. Wedding photos, vacation pictures, holiday celebrations. The crowd made appropriate, appreciative noises, and Kelly started to relax. Then the real show began. The first security camera footage showed Troy's Jeep pulling into our driveway. Timestamp, 3 days ago, while I was supposedly in Boston. A few people in the crowd noticed it wasn't a vacation photo, but most were still chatting and drinking. The second image got more attention. Kelly opening the front door in the black negligee, Troy's hands immediately going to her waist. The backyard got noticeably quieter. The third image made someone gasp audibly. Kelly and Troy in our kitchen, her sitting on the counter in nothing but my flight school t-shirt while he stood between her legs. "Jason, turn it off," Kelly hissed, but her voice was lost in the growing murmur from the crowd. The fourth image was the money shot. Literally. Kelly and Troy in our bed, in a position that left absolutely nothing to the imagination. The timestamp showed it was taken 5 days ago while I was on a turnaround flight to Phoenix. The backyard erupted. "Oh my God, Kelly! Is that your bedroom? Who is that guy? Jason, did you know about this?" I let the chaos build for a moment before raising my hand for silence. "Everyone, I'd like you to meet Troy Banks. He's Kelly's personal trainer. As you can see, he's been very thorough in his training methods." Troy tried to run. He actually turned and bolted for the gate, but Randy was already there, blocking his path with 250 pounds of ex-Navy muscle. "Where are you going, sport?" Randy asked mildly. Kelly was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks as her friends and neighbors stared at her in shock and disgust. "Jason, please, I can explain." "Explain what, exactly?" I asked, my voice carrying clearly across the suddenly silent backyard. "Explain how you've been screwing your trainer in our bed for the past month. Explain how you gave him the keys to my truck. Explain how you thought I was too stupid to figure it out." Cassie, Kelly's best friend, stepped forward. "Kelly, you said you were getting divorced. You said Jason knew about Troy and was okay with it." I was going to tell him?" "When?" I asked. "After you'd spent our savings account on your boy toy? After you'd moved him in permanently? When exactly were you planning to have that conversation?" Troy finally found his voice. "Look, man, she said you guys were separated." "Did she?" I turned to address the crowd again. "Show of hands. How many of you thought Kelly and I were separated?" Silence. Nobody raised their hand. Interesting. So either my wife lied to her lover, or her lover is lying to all of us right now. Either way, someone here has a serious problem with the truth. I clicked the remote again. The next image showed Troy going through my home office, sitting in my chair, looking through what appeared to be financial documents. "This one's my favorite," I announced. "Troy here seems very interested in our bank statements and investment portfolios. I wonder why a personal trainer would need to know about my retirement account." Troy's face went red. "I wasn't..." "She asked me to?" "To what? Help her figure out how much she could steal in a divorce? Help her clean out our accounts before I found out about your little affair?" The crowd was getting ugly now. These were our neighbors, people who'd known us for years, people who'd considered Kelly a friend. The betrayal wasn't just personal anymore. It was social, communal. She'd made fools of all of them. "Jason, please," Kelly sobbed. "Can we talk about this privately?" "Privately?" I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. "You mean like how you and Troy talked privately in our bed? Like how you talked privately about our finances? Like how you talked privately about what a sucker your husband was?" I clicked the remote one more time. The final image was a screenshot of text messages between Kelly and Troy, blown up large enough for everyone to read. Kelly: "He's so clueless. Thinks I'm at yoga class, LOL. Troy: "When are you gonna leave him?" Kelly: "Soon as I figure out how to get half his pilot pension. Dumbass has no idea what's coming." The backyard exploded again, but this time the anger was directed at Kelly. Voices rose, people pointed, and I saw more than one neighbor shaking their head in disgust. "Well," I said into my wireless microphone, "I think that covers the entertainment portion of our barbecue. Kelly, Troy, I believe you have somewhere else to be." The barbecue broke up quickly after that, but not before every single person there had gotten a crystal clear picture of exactly what Kelly and Troy had been doing. I watched our neighbors file out, each one stopping to shake my hand or pat my shoulder, offering support and expressing their shock at Kelly's betrayal. Cassie was one of the last to leave, and she pulled me aside before heading to her car. "Jason, I need you to know. I had no idea. Kelly told me you guys were having problems, that you were probably going to separate, but she never said anything about this." "I believe you, Cassie." "She's been lying to everyone. To me, to the other girls at the gym, probably to Troy too. I feel like such an idiot." "You're not the idiot here." After everyone left, it was just me, Kelly, Troy, Randy, and Adam in the backyard. Kelly was still crying, but now there was anger mixed in with the humiliation. "How could you do that to me?" she demanded. "In front of everyone we know?" "How could I do that to you?" I stared at her in amazement. "Kelly, you've been cheating on me for a month. You gave another man the keys to my truck. You were planning to steal half my pension, and you're asking how I could embarrass you. We could have worked this out privately." "No, we couldn't have, because you're a liar and a cheat, and the only reason you're sorry is because you got caught." Troy stepped forward, trying to look threatening despite the fact that he'd been scratching himself constantly for the past hour. "You had no right to humiliate her like that." Randy moved to stand beside me, and suddenly Troy didn't look quite so confident. "I had every right," I said calmly. "She's my wife. This is my house. And you're trespassing. Kelly invited me?" Kelly doesn't live here anymore. I turned to my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife. You've got 1 hour to pack whatever you can carry. Everything else stays here until the lawyers sort it out. You can't kick me out of my own house. Watch me. You want to shack up with your trainer boyfriend? Go shack up with him. But you're not doing it under my roof anymore. Kelly looked around desperately, as if expecting someone to come to her rescue. But Randy was glaring at Troy, Adam was documenting everything with his phone, and I was standing there with my arms crossed, unmoved by her tears. This isn't over, she said finally. You're right, I agreed. It's not. After Kelly and Troy left, in his Jeep, since I'd already had the locks changed on my truck, I sat in my backyard with Randy and Adam, drinking beer and watching the sun set. That was brutal, Adam said. It was necessary. What's next? Randy asked. I pulled out my phone and showed them the anonymous tip I'd already sent to the IRS about Troy's unreported income. Phase 2. Over the next week, Kelly tried everything. She called, texted, showed up at my house, even had her sister try to intercede on her behalf. But I was done. 12 years of marriage, and she'd thrown it away for a 28-year-old musclehead who couldn't even spell commitment. The neighborhood gossip network was working overtime. Within 48 hours, everyone within a 5-mile radius knew about Kelly's affair and her plans to steal my pension. The gym where she worked was buzzing with rumors, and several of her clients had already requested different instructors. Troy's situation was even worse. The IRS audit hit him on Wednesday. The state licensing board opened an investigation into his previous harassment complaints on Thursday, and on Friday, his landlord served him with an eviction notice. Apparently, someone had anonymously reported that he was running an unlicensed business out of his apartment. But the real masterpiece came on Saturday morning, exactly 1 week after the barbecue. I was having coffee in my kitchen when my phone rang. It was Cassie, and she sounded excited. Jason, you need to see this. Check your email. I opened my laptop and found a video file from Cassie. The timestamp showed it was recorded the night before at some dive bar on the south side of town. The video showed Kelly and Troy having a very public, very loud argument. She was drunk, he was defensive, and they were airing all their dirty laundry in front of a crowded bar. You ruined my life, Kelly was screaming. I lost my job, my house, my friends, everything. Your life? Troy shot back. Lady, I'm about to lose my apartment. The IRS is crawling up my ass, and my boss is asking questions I can't answer. You said you loved me. I said I loved your husband's money. There's a difference. The crowd in the bar was eating it up, phones out, recording everything. Kelly and Troy's private drama was becoming public entertainment, and they were too drunk and angry to notice. The video ended with Troy walking out, leaving Kelly crying at the bar while strangers laughed and pointed. How did you get this? I asked Cassie when I called her back. I wasn't there, but my cousin was. She recognized Kelly and started recording. Jason, this is all over social media. Everyone's talking about it. Perfect. Phase 2 was complete. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my lawyer's office, signing the final divorce papers. Kelly had tried to fight for half of everything, but the evidence of her affair and her plans to steal my pension had made that impossible. She was getting nothing except her personal belongings and her car. She's not taking this well, my lawyer warned me. Her attorney says she's talking about contesting the settlement. Let her try. I've got enough evidence to bury her in court for the next 10 years. But Kelly wasn't done yet. She'd moved in with Troy temporarily after losing her job at the gym, but that arrangement had lasted exactly 5 days before they'd had another public blowout. Now she was staying with her sister and apparently plotting some kind of revenge. I found out what kind on a Thursday evening when I came home from a 3-day trip to find my house had been vandalized. Someone had spray-painted "cheater" across my garage door and smashed the windshield of my truck. I called the police, and Detective Abby Flores showed up to take the report. Any idea who might have done this? She asked, though we both knew the answer. I have some suspicions. Jason, I know Kelly's been going through a rough time, but if she's escalating to property damage... Don't worry about it, Abby. I'll handle Kelly. That night, I called Randy and Adam. It was time for Phase 3. She wants to play hardball? Randy asked. Let's play hardball. The plan was simple, elegant, and completely legal. Kelly had made the mistake of vandalizing my property, which gave me the perfect excuse to take the gloves off completely. First, I had security cameras installed around the entire house, with night vision and motion detection. If Kelly came back for another round of vandalism, I'd have her nailed down legally. Second, I started making some calls to Kelly's remaining friends and family members. Not to trash talk her, I didn't need to. I just shared the security footage from our house, the photos from the barbecue, and the videos from the bar fight. Let them draw their own conclusions about Kelly's character. Third, and most importantly, I discovered something interesting about Troy's background check. He'd lied on his gym employment application about his previous harassment complaints. That was grounds for immediate termination, and I made sure his current boss found out about it. The dominoes started falling fast. Troy got fired on Monday. Without income, he couldn't make rent, and he got evicted on Wednesday. Kelly's sister got tired of supporting both of them and kicked Kelly out on Friday. By the following week, they were both living in Troy's Jeep and using the gym's shower facilities to stay clean. But I wasn't done yet. I'd been tracking Troy's movements with the GPS device Randy had installed, and I'd noticed he was spending a lot of time at a particular address on the east side of town. Some research revealed it was a massage parlor with a reputation for offering services that weren't exactly therapeutic. A few anonymous tips to the right authorities, and suddenly Troy was caught up in a prostitution sting. Nothing that would put him in prison long term, but enough to get him arrested, photographed, and featured in the local paper's crime blotter. Kelly tried to distance herself from him after that, but the damage was done. Everyone knew they were together. Everyone knew about their affair, and everyone knew how it had all fallen apart. The final piece of the puzzle came from an unexpected source, Cassie. She called me on a Saturday morning, 3 months after the barbecue, with news that made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Jason, you're not going to believe this. Kelly tried to get a job at my gym, and when they called Elite Fitness for a reference, they found out she'd been stealing from the register." Stealing? Pocketing cash payments from clients and not reporting them. Same thing Troy was doing with his private training sessions. They're both banned from every gym in the city now. So Kelly had been stealing too. Not just planning to steal my pension, but actually stealing from her employer to fund her affair with Troy. The hypocrisy was breathtaking. "There's more," Cassie continued. "She's been telling people that you set her up, that you planted evidence and framed her for things she didn't do." "What do you think?" "I think she's a liar who got caught and can't handle the consequences. Jason, I owe you an apology. I should have seen what she was really like years ago." "You're not responsible for Kelly's choices, Cassie." "Maybe not, but I feel like an idiot for believing her lies for so long." That evening, I was grilling dinner in my backyard, the same backyard where I'd exposed Kelly's affair 3 months earlier, when Adam came over with a beer and some interesting news. "Guess who I saw at the grocery store today?" "Kelly?" "Kelly and Troy, together again, apparently. They were arguing in the parking lot about money, loud enough for half the store to hear. They deserve each other. She looked rough, Jason, really rough, like she hasn't been sleeping or eating much." I felt a momentary pang of something that might have been sympathy, but it passed quickly. Kelly had made her choices. She'd chosen to cheat, chosen to lie, chosen to steal, and chosen to try to destroy me when her plans fell apart. Whatever consequences she was facing now, she'd earned them. "Any regrets?" Adam asked. I thought about it for a long moment, watching the sun set over the neighborhood where Kelly and I had once planned to grow old together. "No," I said finally. "No regrets at all." 6 months after the barbecue, I was finally ready to close the book on Kelly and Troy permanently. The divorce was finalized, the house was mine, and I'd started dating again. A nice woman named Sarah who worked as an air traffic controller and understood the demands of aviation careers. But Kelly wasn't quite ready to let go. She'd been calling me sporadically, sometimes drunk, sometimes sober, always asking for money or help or another chance. I'd blocked her number, but she kept getting new phones, new numbers, new ways to try to worm her way back into my life. The final confrontation came on a Tuesday evening in November. I was working in my garage when I heard a car pull into the driveway. Through the window, I saw Troy's Jeep. Somehow he'd managed to avoid repossession, and both Kelly and Troy getting out. I called Randy first, then Adam, then Detective Flores. If this was going to be the final showdown, I wanted witnesses and backup. Kelly knocked on the front door, then started pounding when I didn't answer immediately. "Jason, I know you're in there. We need to talk." I opened the door but left the chain lock engaged. Kelly looked terrible, thin, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that had seen better days. Troy looked even worse, with the pale, twitchy appearance of someone who'd been living rough for too long. "What do you want, Kelly?" "I want my life back. I want you to stop ruining everything for me." "I'm not ruining anything. You did that all by yourself. You set me up. You planned that whole barbecue to humiliate me." "You're right, I did. Just like you planned to steal my pension and run off with your boyfriend. The difference is, my plan worked." Troy stepped forward, trying to look intimidating. "You destroyed our lives, man. We lost everything because of you. You lost everything because you're a cheater and a thief. Both of you." Randy's truck pulled into the driveway behind the Jeep, and I saw Troy's confidence evaporate as 250 pounds of ex-Navy muscle climbed out. "Problem here, Jason?" Randy asked mildly. "Just some old friends saying goodbye," I replied. Kelly was crying again, but this time it was different. These weren't tears of humiliation or anger. These were tears of desperation, of someone who'd finally realized how completely they'd destroyed their own life. "Jason, please, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everything. Can't we try again?" For just a moment, looking at the woman I'd once loved, I felt something that might have been pity. But then I remembered the security camera footage, the stolen money, the lies, the betrayal, and the feeling passed. "No, Kelly, we can't try again. There's nothing left to try." "But I love you." "No, you don't. You love what I represented. Security, money, a house in a nice neighborhood. You never loved me. If you had, you wouldn't have been able to do what you did." Troy grabbed Kelly's arm. "Come on, let's go. He's not going to help us." "Help you what?" I asked. "Find jobs? Find a place to live? Troy, you're on the registry now because of that massage parlor incident. Kelly, you're banned from every gym in the city for theft. You did this to yourselves." Adam's car pulled up, followed immediately by a police cruiser. Detective Flores got out and walked over to where we were all standing. "Evening, folks. Got a call about a disturbance?" "No disturbance," I said. "Just some people who were about to leave." Flores looked at Kelly and Troy, taking in their appearance, their obvious desperation, and the expensive Jeep that didn't match their current circumstances. "That your vehicle?" she asked Troy. "Yeah, why?" "Registration's expired. Tags are 6 months out of date. I'm going to need to see your license and insurance." Troy's face went white. I suspected he had neither current insurance nor a valid license, given his recent legal troubles. "Look, officer, we were just leaving. After I check your paperwork." 20 minutes later, Troy was in handcuffs for driving without a license or insurance, and the Jeep was being towed. Kelly was standing in my driveway, crying and alone, with no way to get home. "Need a ride?" Flores asked her. I don't have anywhere to go." Flores looked at me. "Jason? Not my problem anymore." "Fair enough." She turned back to Kelly. "There's a women's shelter downtown. I can drop you there." As the police car pulled away with Kelly in the back seat and the tow truck disappeared with Troy's Jeep, I stood in my driveway with Randy and Adam, watching the final chapter of my marriage disappear into the night. "Think that's the end of it?" Adam asked. "Yeah," I said. "I think it is." Randy clapped me on the shoulder. "You did good, brother. Took them down clean, took them down legal, and took them down permanent. They did it to themselves. I just helped them along." 6 months later, I married Sarah in a small ceremony in my backyard, the same backyard where I'd exposed Kelly's affair a year earlier. Randy was my best man, Adam handled the photography, and Detective Flores even showed up as a guest. Kelly and Troy had both left town by then, separately, their relationship another casualty of their own poor choices. I heard through the grapevine that Kelly was working as a waitress in Oklahoma City, and Troy had moved back in with his mother in Arkansas. I never saw either of them again. As I stood in that backyard, holding Sarah's hand and looking out at the friends and family who'd supported me through the worst year of my life, I realized something important. Revenge wasn't about destroying your enemies. It was about refusing to let them destroy you. Kelly and Troy had tried to take everything from me, my marriage, my money, my home, my dignity. But in the end, all they'd managed to do was take themselves out of my life permanently. And honestly, that was the best gift they could have given me. I raised my champagne glass to toast my new wife, my real friends, and my second chance at happiness. In the distance, I could hear the sound of aircraft taking off from the regional airport, climbing toward cruising altitude and blue skies. The descent was over. It was time to fly again.